Before cell phones, before even digital video cameras, families in the 1970s would record family events using a Super 8 camera. The camera was developed by Kodak and used the same format as motion picture films, so it was popular with amateur movie makers. Super 8 made shooting films easier, more affordable, and more fun than ever before. Super 8s remained popular throughout the 1970s, right up until Betamax and VHS camcorders took over the market. The 1970s is not known for its stellar sense of style. Rather, it is more notorious for introducing fashion trends that many hope we never see again. One of these being short shorts for men. These tight-fitting and hairy leg-showing swatches of fabric were mainly reserved for athletic shorts, so they could easily be found on the basketball court or roller skating through a park. To complement these sporty shorts, tube socks covered the lower half of your legs, and they had stripes that encircled the top. Athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Pele, and Bjorn Borg couldn't get enough of the short shorts and tube sock look, making it even more popular. Fortunately, this trend, along with many others from the 1970s, has faded away. During the 1970s, there was a push to start using the metric system as our universal measuring standard. There was even legislation passed called the Metric Conversion Act, signed into law in 1975 by President Gerald Ford, but it wasn't a mandatory thing. It turns out that Americans weren't ready to switch from inches, miles, and pounds to centimeters, kilometers, and grams. Therefore, the metric push was never adopted. As globalization worked to establish a universally accepted way to measure, we in the US decided that we liked our customary system. Farrah Fawcett single-handedly made feathered hair a national fad, and without it, the 1970s might just be a blur of disco and bell-bottoms. Feathered hair differed from past hairdos, with its breezy blowout that flipped back and away from the face. It just seemed like a more natural look, and teenagers took notice, especially as episodes of Charlie's Angels aired each week, making Farrah an even bigger star. Feathered hair was worn by men and women alike during the 1970s, and although the popularity of the look peaked during this decade, its influence on contemporary hairstyles can still be found. The original Goody's Super Comb was so big and clunky, it almost looked like a weapon. But this trusty hair accessory that could comb through anything became the ultimate fashion accessory during the 1970s. By putting a super comb in your back pocket, all of your friends knew you were serious about keeping your hair looking good. And this became a trend that saw just about everybody doing it. Tab soda was a big seller during the 1970s. The diet soda was produced by Coca-Cola, and they offered a variety of flavors, but the primary sweetener in Tab was saccharin, which became an issue when researchers thought it caused cancer. Despite the label warning about the side effects, Tab remained popular. But the nail in the coffin was the introduction of Diet Coke in 1982. Although Tab was still produced, the drink was scaled back considerably, which created sort of a cult following, but it was nothing like its popularity during the 1970s. Motorcycles, helped by the popularity of Evel Knievel and the movie Easy Rider, were the inspiration for bicycle designs of the 1970s. Not only did bikes have chopper-style handlebars, but they also had long seats, called banana seats. This style was introduced by Schwinn in 1963, and kids everywhere went crazy for them. By the 1970s, if you didn't have a bike with raised handlebars and a banana seat, you were missing out. The bikes carried over a little into the 1980s, but by then, BMX and freestyle bikes were the new thing. Every kid loved collecting cards, but during the 1970s, it wasn't baseball cards kids were buying. Wacky Packs were hilarious spoof cards that made fun of consumer products of the day. The artwork was drawn by some of the decade's best-known artists, and kids couldn't get enough of the hilarious cards. The 1970s was when Wacky Packs were at their peak, but these funny trading cards would end up fizzling out, especially after kids got their hands on the even more offensive Garbage Pail Kids of the 1980s. Children's television in the 1970s would not be the same without the wild visuals of Sid and Marty Croft. Shows like H.R. Pufnstuf, Land of the Lost, and The Bugaloos had millions of American kids smiling on Saturday mornings. These fantastical shows featured the signature style of large-headed puppets and low-budget special effects, which made the world of Sid and Marty Croft one that kids would remember for a lifetime. Teenagers from the 1970s wanted one car more than any other. The Pontiac Trans Am became one of the most popular muscle cars of the decade, and the movie Smokey and the Bandit helped to catapult it even further. For kids in the 1970s, the Trans Am embodied everything they could ever want in a car. The Firebird decal on the hood, the shaker scoop, and those comfortable bucket seats made for one of the most iconic cars of the 1970s. Let me know in the comments if I missed any of your favorite things that we have now abandoned. If you enjoyed this video, click on this playlist to watch even more. And as always, thank you so much for watching.